had enough of this. I'll buy you a one-way ticket back to the Philippines. Go back to where you belong. Hi there, and welcome back. If you're just tuning in now, make sure to check out the previous episodes on the channel so you don't miss any of my story. So trust me, you'll want the full context to understand how we got here. Now, let's dive into today's episode. So I've tried rationalize Jack's behavior, convincing myself that perhaps there was some hidden rationale behind his actions, but every step deeper into his world revealed layers of madness I hadn't signed up for. First, there was the visit to his ex-wife's house, a property he had no business being near. What could he possibly want there? She'd been out of his life for years, and now he was married to me. Was it nostalgia, guilt, obsession? Whatever it was, it felt like he was dragging me into a wave of unresolved chaos that had nothing to do with me. Then there was the encounter with his eldest son. Jack never spoke about his past life, his ex-wife, or his children, and now out of nowhere, he decided it was time to reconnect. "Let's go for a dive," he said that day, his voice clipped but urgent. "Where to?" I asked, already feeling the storm brewing beneath his calm tone. "Just come," he muttered, not meeting my eyes. We ended up at the jewelry store where apparently his eldest son worked. I've never met the boy, a 24-year-old man now, and Jack had never spoken much about him. As we walked in, I saw him immediately, a tall, lean young man with dark hair and striking eyes that mirrored Jack's. "Son," Jack said, his voice heavy with forced casualness, "how are you doing?" His son barely glanced up from the counter where he was assisting a customer. His face betrayed no emotion, no recognition, just a fleeting glance before returning to his work. Jack's shoulders tensed. "It's me," he said, louder this time, as if volume would bridge the years of estrangement. "It's me, your dad." The young man paused, looked at him briefly, and then turned away without a word. The rejection was a physical blow. I saw Jack's face twist in pain for a split second before he masked it. On the way home, the silence between us was suffocating. I wanted to ask so many questions. What happened between you and your children? Why did he ignore you like that? Were you a bad father? But Jack's clenched jaw and icy demeanor warned me to keep my mouth shut. I knew better than to poke the bear. When we got home, I tried to settle my thoughts. I needed to focus on something else, anything else. The mailbox offered distraction. Among the usual bills and junk mail was a letter from my mom. My heart leaped and sank simultaneously. It was the second letter I'd received in as many months, and I know I'd have to hide it until Jack went to work the next day. The following morning, with Jack gone, I finally opened it. My hands trembled as I unfolded the paper. The news was devastating. My grandma had passed away in her sleep. While it was a relief that she hadn't suffered, the grief was sharp and immediate. My mom's letter was filled with sorrow and a desperate plea for help. They couldn't afford the burial expenses and needed me to send whatever I could. Tears streamed down my face. I wanted to help so badly, but I know Jack's stance on sending money back home. He'd made it clear from the very beginning, "Your family is your past. You're with me now." But how could I turn my back on them, especially now? That evening, Jack came home from work. As he sat down to dinner, I paced the kitchen, my heart pounding. I rehearsed the conversation in my head over and over. Just ask him, what's the worst that could happen? Finally, he noticed. "What's with you?" he asked, his eyes narrowing. "Jack, I needed to talk to you," I said, my voice trembling. He put down his fork and leaned back in his chair. Go on. I explained about my grandma, about the funeral expenses, and about my mom's plea for help. I'm only asking for a couple of $100, I said, almost pleading, I'll pay it back. Maybe we could just keep tithing this week. His face darkened immediately. He stood up abruptly, towering over me. No, he said coldly. I told you before, not a single penny goes to your family. You're with me now. Forget them. I tried to reason with him, but he cut me off. His rage boiled over. He stormed into the bedroom, grabbed my clothes, and stuffed them into a garbage bag. What are you doing? I cried, panic rising in my chest. He said, you're leaving. His voice eerily calm now. I've had enough of this. I'll buy you a one-way ticket back to the Philippines. Go back to where you belong. That's what he told me. He threw the bag into the back of his truck and ordered me to get in. I sat in stunned silence as he drove me to the home of an elderly Filipino friend. He dumped my belongings on the doorstep, and without another word, he drove off. As I stood there clutching the garbage bag, a mix of humiliation, anger, and sorrow washed over me. I had given so much of myself to this man, only to be discarded like trash. But in that moment, a spark of defiance ignited within me. This wasn't the end of my story. Watch out for what's coming. The events of that night marked a turning point. Jack's cruelty had pushed me to my limit, and I knew I couldn't stay silent any longer. In chapters ahead, I'll confront not just Jack, but the deeper truths about myself, my strength, and my future. The road ahead won't be easy, but it's one I'm determined to walk. Keep watching. The storm has only just begun.